it seemed all right. And then it started human being to human. Then human wasn't interesting anymore. The disease that had been in pangolins got a name. It even got a number. And now, as things stand, it's been caught by countless
For those that are attending, for me, football has frozen, which I believe might be a technical issue. So as soon as he's back, we'll get you back to the webinar.
Sorry, could people hear me before? Do I need to be again? I'm wondering whether I ought to come on another computer. Can I?
I think if you log out, Paul, and join on your computer that's got more stable connection, that might be helpful.
I learned that the pangolins had a disease, and I wasn't particularly bothered. And then and now, okay, I'm going to join. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm going to join on my own computer. Just a moment. Thank you.
Phil, whilst Paul's trying to join us, whilst the webinar is titled "Making Meaning Out of the Pandemic," it'd be useful if you are joining us could write in the chat what the pandemic has meant to you and how it's impacted your way of living. Like now, we've all been forced to move on to technology and using online meetings, and how that's impacted us in different ways.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Paul.
Oh, so everybody, I am so sorry. It won't happen again. Well, it probably will. So let me start again. My name's Paul Walker, and I am the Staff Engagement Lead at Tees Eskom Wear Valleys NHS Foundation Trust. And I'm also a part-time chaplain. And I've been asked to do some talks on the topic of making meaning out of the pandemic that we're living in. So I'm going to begin by getting us to think about a word. It's a word that I'd not heard of until last year. I don't know whether you had. The word was pangolin. Turns out that there's an animal in China called a pangolin. Turns out that the pangolin had a disease. I can't say I was particularly bothered. I'm sure there are lots of diseases. There's bird flu going around at the moment. Then the pangolin passed on its disease to human beings. That is my interest. Human beings to give the disease a name and a number. And then that disease started passing from people to people, and suddenly it became a little bit more interesting as we were all watching what was going on in China. And then scarily it got to Italy, then it reached here. And all of a sudden it became much more serious. That's just over nearly a year ago. And now countless millions of people have caught that disease and millions have died. And they're just the ones we've counted. Those of us working in health will be aware of all those beds which are taken up by people who have COVID, which means that people with cancer, heart disease, stroke cannot be looked after. So how many people have died? And every day we look at the news and we hear that horrible statistics coming out again and again and again. This thousand number of people have caught the disease. This thousand number of people have been hospitalized, and this thousand number of people have died. And I notice they always say, sadly died. I think that's a redundant word, don't you? When I hear those numbers, I'm reminded of a quote which is chillingly attributed to Joseph Stalin. Single death is a tragedy. A million deaths is a statistic. That holds very true till one of the millions is somebody you know and love. Or maybe somebody you've nursed. And then again, the statistic becomes a tragedy. And yet for nature, if we've got to be honest about this, it's of little or no consequence at all. We're all going to die anyway. And even if we live as long as Captain Tom, our time on Earth is vanishingly brief. If you think about it, if you take the climate emergency, plastics that are everywhere, the extinctions that are going on, it might be quite useful if 2 or 3 billion people were to die. And yet, even as I say those words, even as I wrote those words in preparation for this, it sent a chill down my spine. I cannot even contemplate, even if it were good for the planet, the idea of billions of human beings dying. Because to me at least, and I think to all of you listening, human beings have an intrinsic value. So why is human life important? Why is it valuable? Do we really see it as valuable? Maybe just that we're human ourselves. Therefore, we have some kind of empathy with other human beings. Throughout so much of history, and maybe even still so much of the world, human life is cheap, very cheap. Think about the history you remember with its burnings, mass graves, crucifixions, concentration camps, gulags. Human life has been seen as cheap, cheap, cheap. Those of us working in health, I hope we do rebel against that and say, no, it's not. It's valuable, valuable, valuable. What is a human being? Well, in preparation for this, I learned something quite interesting. You know that 99% of these bodies that we have are made up of only 6 elements. I could do this as a quiz. What are those 6 elements? I think I'd have got 4 for certain. 5th one, hope so. 6, I don't think I'd have ever got. So I'll tell you what the 6 elements that make up a human, 99% of a human being are. Oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. And then if we take the last 1%, that's only made up of another 5 elements. Not a little few more, but I mean, that's most of the last 1%. And that's potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, and magnesium. Now, if you were given those elements, the right proportion at the right amount, and put them in a test tube, and anyone who's doing a lateral flow test will know where I got this test tube from. Obviously, the test tube we would need is bigger. So we got all of those elements, and you were to put them into your test tube, and you did what you have to do. I don't know, put it over a Bunsen burner, maybe, shake it around, maybe blow on it, whatever you have to do, rub it, maybe say a spell or a prayer over it. You still wouldn't get a human being. Mary Shelley wrote about Frankenstein making a human being 150 years ago, and that is as much science fiction there now as it was then. It's not going to happen in the next several millennia, and I doubt that it'll ever happen. There's not even any valuable elements in there. But for those people most at ease with reducing human beings to lumps of chemicals, they will still, at some points in their lives, have fallen in love with the lump of those chemicals. Perhaps nurtured the lump of those chemicals. Maybe when one of those chemicals stops moving about, have mourned the loss of one of those lumps of chemicals. We cannot be immune from human connection. And I guess most of us would think in our lives, those human connections are the most important things that we have. We may, for example, fully understand the evolutionary purpose behind when we are nurturing a lump of chemicals, why we feel what we feel. We know it's an evolutionary process that makes us want to protect a baby. We don't think of it as an emotional process, do we? In an evolutionary process, we think of it love. Almost all of us believe, I think, that people matter, even if only at the emotional level. I think, but even more than that, I think we think they matter more than anything else. That's the way we're made up. And religions, all religions, seem to me to say that the best thing you can have is a human life well lived. That makes more sense to me than knowing the chemical composition of humans. Religious texts, anyway, are better seen as good poetry than bad science. And it's to the poets I turn. I may have an interesting conversation with the biochemists about how we're made up. I may have interesting conversation about the sociologists, the anthropologists, about what a human being is. But the poets get me. I am, let's put it this way, I'm nearer 60 than 50. I'm actually nearer 60 than 55. And so I suppose I'm in a position to look back on this life that these group of chemicals have gone through. You can get it better for my life than Shakespeare. All the world's a stage. All the men and women are players. Have their exits and their entrances. One man in his time plays many parts. From As You Like It, which I was in actually when I was a young man. Touchstone, if anyone knows it. So there we are. Humans are both nothing and everything. I just want to end with a meditation. I don't know if you're used to meditations. I know some people say, oh, I do meditation, and it sounds so grand. It's not. It's just If you've never done a meditation, you're about to do one. Nothing grand. So just sit down, feel your bottom firmly on the chair that you're in. Don't slouch, okay? Feet firmly on the ground if you can. Sort of sitting up, comfortable. You might want to put your hands on your knees, either downward on your knee or away, whichever makes you feel most comfortable. I think for this particular meditation, it's best to close your eyes. If you feel that's a bit weird, or if there are people around and you think it looks creepy, don't worry about it. I think this will work best. We'll have a meditation about human beings. I just want you in that meditative position to breathe, just to be aware of yourself and your own body. Just to be calm, breathe easily. And all I want you to do is to have in your mind's eye a picture of somebody you know and care about. Don't overthink this. Whoever comes into your mind first may have surprised you. Let that be the person. Just allow yourself to think about that person. As you look at them in your mind's eye, you breathe, just allow yourself to feel emotion. What emotions are you feeling? Just be aware of those emotions. Think about what it is that this thought of this person does to you. And if you go beyond looking at them, just allow memories that you've had of times with this person. Some of you will be thinking about people you've known a long time, others much more recently, but you'll have memories. Just allow those memories to come. They will affect the emotions that you feel. You think about that person who matters to you. Ask yourself this question. When I think about this person, what do I need to be thankful for? What is it about this person I want to say thanks for? All our relationships are not simply made up of gratitude. If you care about this person, there will have been difficult times in your relationship. So there are two other things that you need to do with another human being. Say sorry for the times you let them down, and to forgive the times they hurt you or let you down. But with those thoughts of sorry and forgive, in your relationship with this other person, what have you done, they done, that shouldn't have been done? What was not done, should have been done? Sorry and forgive. With that person in mind, aware that everybody on this call, everybody who then looks at this call in the future, have a different person in their mind. And maybe if other people were here, the person being thought about would be you. Those of you who do work in patient-facing care, the person being thought about may be the person in that bed, the person on that ventilator, the person who is about to die. That's why we do what we do, because people matter. And so after the craziness of the connection problems and the fact that my next door neighbour's builder has started to drill, I have now finished. So I don't know what we do, because this is the first time I've done one of these. don't know if anyone has any comments from here. So Paris, you're saying we can finish at this point?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you
Thank you.
for everyone for bearing us with with the technology problems. As we've all come used to it now, whether there's a meeting online, there's a problem online. So
Yeah.
you did well, Paul, and you powered through. You swapped computers faster than anyone else could. So
Okay, I will. Well, I'm back on tomorrow, and I won't even use my work computer. I'll bring this one.
great.